What if the secret to growth, passion, and real change is simply curiosity? In this interview, Robert Imbriale shares how following his curiosity, not certainty, led him through fear into new chapters of his life and career. If you're feeling stuck, his story just might open a door that you didn't even know was there. Are you ready? Welcome to the Bruce Poppy Show, everybody. I'm Bruce Poppy, and I have my good friend and guest today on the broadcast, the episode, Robert Imbriale, a good friend of mine. We met a couple years ago in Las Vegas at an event, Truth Story event, and just hit it off, crazy good. And we're kind of flipping the tables a little bit. He's normally doing the interviewing, right? So he's now on the other side of the spectrum, and we're going to be finding out about who is he, what he's been through. And because we know this YouTube channel is all about unleashing excellence. And through learning some of Robert's background, he's done some pretty significant changes have come about through time. And we need to be adaptable. I mean, that's one of the key aspects of us being human beings is our adaptability. And if we continue to do the same thing we've always done, we're going to continue to get the same results we've always gotten, good, bad, or indifferent. And by learning some of Robert's background, he has done all kinds of stuff and been on the forefront of change and adaptability. His background is currently he's got a show or channel on Rumble. He's got a big media thing, renegademedia.tv. Renegademedia.tv. He also has been an author, wrote a couple of books. He's done some farming. I know he's done photography. He's very technical oriented. He's very high on the understanding the technological aspects of certain equipment, like cameras and audio and all the different things. He's the one we go to when we got a technical issue. He's our local technical support, our IT guy. But there's just so much more to Robert, and so I'm super excited to be able to find out and bring to you some of his background, so maybe you can glean some things that he's done and shifted, that he has been able to change and unleash excellence in his own life. So welcome to the Bruce Poppy Show, Robert.
Well, first of all, Bruce, I got to congratulate you on the show.
Well, thanks.
This is so needed. People really need the Bruce Poppy Show more than they know, I think. And as we keep moving forward through these, I call them chaotic times, challenging times. People are looking for their footing. They're looking for the bright spots. If you are glued to the news all day long, you're going to start feeling less than, and you don't get to fully express yourself when you're feeling depressed. And I think that's what we need, more bright spots out here. So congratulations to you. This is a great idea. I love what you're doing, and I fully support anything that you're going to do on this channel because I know it's going to be great things.
Well, I appreciate that. And you had mentioned, the depression that can come with, watching and being, up to date on current events. It's not, and that's probably not by accident. If you look into some of the details, that antidepressants are the number one prescribed thing here in the United States. I mean, there's more people on antidepressants likely than there isn't. So that's a huge issue because it's the perception of what we see coming through the television, through their programming. So it's important. A lot of times I do it myself, have to unplug, get out into nature, recenter, reground myself, because if we focus on just the normal everyday ins and outs of what's happening in the world and society, it's a dismal type of outlook. But there's way more than that. I mean, if you focus where focus goes, energy flows. So as we jump into this to find out about you and some of your background, I know early on you had a passion for photography, and so kind of take us back how when you were growing up, as I understand it, you grew up in Canada.
Yeah, grew up in Montreal, actually. Yeah.
And then was right out of high school, or right during high school, actually, that you developed this passion for photography. How did that come about?
Well, it started earlier with my dad gave me a camera when I was 12 years old. One of those little Instamatics had 12 exposures in it. And for him, that would have lasted like 6 months before he'd have taken those 12 pictures. Back in those days, you had to bring it to the photo mat to get it developed and, that kind of thing. And he came home that night and I'd already shot the whole roll and I said, I need more film. And I was hooked at that point. I knew it. And, seventh grade came along and they had a photo club. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get in the photo club. It was already filled by the time they got to the I's on the list, my last name. That was the end of it. It was already filled. So I took library instead. And that allowed me to sit in the library for an hour. Every time there would be photo club, I'd be in the library. So I took out remember the Encyclopedia Britannica?
Yeah.
Everyone had those growing up, right? So I took that out, looked up pulled a book with P and looked up photography, and it had all this explanation about how to take pictures, how cameras work, how lenses work, and then it went into developing film and developing, enlargements and all that kind of stuff. By the time high school came along, my senior year, I was the head photographer for the yearbook without ever having taken a photo class. It was kind of fun to do that.
So, so you
So
you
yeah, a
you
passion.
wanted to get in the photography class. It was full, so you went in the library and started reading about it. And then when it came time for you to get into the photography class, you actually knew more than the teacher.
Yeah, I learned more than the students that were in the photo club after that year because I'd gone a lot further. Plus, I had all the stuff at home. I kept buying all the equipment, and anytime I had allowance money, that's what I would spend it on. And that didn't stop. I mean, when I got my first job, it was literally grabbing the paycheck and running down to the photo store and buying equipment and film and light stands and flashes and everything that I needed. And then I took professional photography is what I took in college. I got a degree in cinema communications, and I went back to get another degree in commercial professional photography. That was a 3-year degree, Dawson Institute of Photography in Montreal. And I was the first student in the 20-year history of the school to have an open functioning studio in downtown Montreal at graduation. So the dean of the school came down, for the opening, and we did a little party, and it was really a lot of fun to do that. Like had a little studio there. It was fun.
Yeah, so you actually had a physical studio. You were paying rent for a place to, and
Commercial space, yeah.
had a little
Yeah.
business before you even graduated high school. So you kind of
Before I graduated photo school.
photo school. So this is after high school when you got your degree, right?
Right. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
so when you were doing that, I mean, did you had some? Obviously, you're a very self-starter type person, right? You're always pushing the limits, as shown through the library situation. So did you have a vision? You wanted to, be the next guy on National Geographic, or what was your vision that you wanted to use for this photo studio that you had opened up in Montreal?
Well, I had a couple of things. So my majors because you had to pick some areas of focus in photo school. So one of them was architecture, the other one was fashion photography, and the third one was product photography. So I had those three areas where I was focusing. And there was a company called Faces International that had come through Montreal, and they were inviting people to get into their book. They're producing this giant book, literally the size of a telephone book, of all these faces, and they would have names on it. And then supposedly they would send them to the big Hollywood studios and such to get people, into acting. And so I went to meet them, and I said, I've got a photo studio. I'm real good at taking fashion photos. So they were sending me clients. So here I am taking these photos for these customers, and then they would buy the space in the Faces International book because it was you're buying an ad is really what you're buying, but they needed the photos to do it, so they were sending them to me. It was really a lot of fun to do that.
That's interesting. And this is before the internet and all that different type of stuff.
Oh yeah,
When they
yeah, way before.
Yeah, because it's just as you were talking about that Faces book, that they would send out to the different media and movie studios and things like that. In my mind, because my background is in real estate, I remember back in the day before the internet, we had the MLS books, right? The MLS was not online. It was a book thick like a telephone book that they put out like once a month or every couple of weeks. So if you got a new listing, it would take sometimes, a month before it would get out into their MLS system. This is way before the internet. So yeah, you were a trailblazer, a pioneer in that space.
And also a pioneer on the internet too, because I had got my hands on a TRS-80 computer in 1980. My uncle had it. Tandy Radio Shack, TRS, Tandy Radio Shack 80, because the year that it came out, 1980. Interesting way they named the thing. That was my first exposure to computers. Then at some point, my uncle told my dad, "You better get your son a computer because I'd like to use mine." 'Cause I was on it all the time. So it was a year later, I got a Commodore 64, and 1984, I actually got online for the very first time on a service called Q-Link, which was the precursor to America Online. It was the same guy.
Interesting.
So he had done that just for the Commodore 64 market. And yeah, there were no images back then. It was just colored text is all you
Right.
got when you're on that service.
Yeah, I remember similar situation to me. I had the Tandy 1000 was
Ah,
my first computer, and they didn't have internet or websites or anything like that. It was BBS's bulletin board
right.
services. There's the different
Yep.
things, different rooms you can get in. It was all text based.
That's how I made my first sale in 1989 online. It was because I was running a bulletin board system, a BBS, and I had gone to my boss at the time, and I said we could sell. And we were selling research reports to the company I was working with, and I said we could sell these online. He looked at me and he goes, "What's online?" He had no idea. I said, "Don't worry about it. I'll set it up." So I set up a BBS on an old computer I had, and at that time it was modem connected to a phone line. And it was only one user at a time that could access it, and that was my early experience. And so I would talk about internet marketing pioneer. Yeah, certainly I was doing it way before anybody else had really caught on to internet marketing.
Right. So anybody who's on the younger scale of aging, under 30 years old, probably, when you hear about modems and things like this, is all completely Greek to
That's
those
right.
to those type of people. They don't have any type of idea. Nowadays you hand some young kid one of those dial rotary phones and you say, "Give me a call," and they don't know what to do. How do you do this?
How does
Uh,
this work?
yeah. So I mean,
It is.
technology's.
It is funny.
Go ahead.
It is funny, Bruce, to hear people like, I've got a lot of experience in internet marketing. It's like, I've been online for 6 years. I'm like, 6 years, really?
Yeah. No, I mean, and things change. I mean, that's the crux of kind of your story and situation. As times and things and technology and different changes, we have to adapt to be able to forward ourselves and unleash the excellence that's within us. Because if you stay tied to the same old stuff that you've always been doing, or you're scared to get online. There's a lot of people in the older age bracket. They're fearful of the unknown, and so they seem kind of stuck in the past, if you will.
Well, there's always fear, right? So when the online world came around, all the retailers were panicked by it, and a lot of people wouldn't buy anything online, and there was all this fear around it, and some of it was justified. Yeah, there's a lot of scams and that kind of thing. There still are, but you kind of manage your way through it, and we're in the same thing. We're in another quantum jump here with AI, and everyone's panicked about AI, and it's like, well, you might as well embrace it. It's not going to go away. Bill Gates thought the internet was a passing fad and it wouldn't last. I'm like, okay, here's the guy running Microsoft, and Microsoft was really late to the game, and they never caught up because they didn't see the vision. Now, I'll give you an idea. In 1981, I did a presentation in college. I called it TV technology, and I did it on slides, and and I spoke over the slides, that kind of thing. And what I did is I had a television in the middle, and I had all these different things you'd be able to do off your television. I didn't realize the television was actually going to be the computer, but it was the idea of the screen. This is
Right.
1981. So when I saw the online world, I go, this is it. This is going to change everything. And it became, my passion to be online and be on the cutting edge of this thing because I knew it was going to grow exponentially. And sure enough, it did.
Oh, absolutely. And talk about exponentially. Yeah, things are moving at a breakneck pace. You mentioned that word, quantum leap. From where things started in the 50s ish. As far as some technological advances, kind of. I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory, but kind of aligns in that where that Roswell, New Mexico crash situation, and all of a sudden, we have all this technology, and boom, 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 everything's just going at breakneck speed. As soon as you buy something tomorrow, it's outdated because they got something new and better.
Yeah. Well, the whole idea with, Google search, I think was probably the fastest thing to come about, where you type in a word and the search comes back to you instantly, or pretty much instantly, because they have data centers all over the place. So you're not really traveling too far over the internet to get the information. And then we hit this thing called AI, and all of a sudden now it's a quantum leap forward again. And it doesn't make sense if you look at the normal way we use computers and the way data centers work. It's much too fast. It can compress way too much information to be what we're used to as far as computers. So this is a quantum leap forward, and I think that's why it's freaking people out. It's going so fast.
Sure. And I think too, a lot of people have that. We talked about fear. People have a fear of change. They're just stuck in the this is the way we've always done it type of attitude, or or some people adopt the mindset that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. All these different sayings. But that's, if you can develop one skill or change one mindset in today's world, is you got to be flexible, right? You got to be willing to learn something new, because there's stuff out there all over the place. There's no lack of information, right? If you choose to not know something, it's a choice. So ignorance is a choice. It's not bliss. So that's little lesson in that sense as things go. So kind of back up. You were doing the photography thing for the Face magazine, and so what was the next iteration? Because your story seems to be an evolution as things, you kind of saw things before they came, right? You kind of had a vision, you saw where the road was going, and you position yourself to be able to take best advantage of the things that you were seeing.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the gifts I have, and I've always been able to see around the corner, as far as what the trends are, and I think all of us need to have a little bit of that in us to not be so afraid of the future. As you kind of look at where things are going, you get an idea of what might be happening next, and I always say, you mentioned being flexible. I say be strong, but also be flexible. It's kind of both at the same time. Rather than being strong and rigid, then these changes will break you. And I know people that were in the industry of printing, for instance, and when computers came out and you did all the pre-work that you would do before you go to press, the pre-press stuff, you'd be able to do it on the computer, and they refused to learn the computer. They were out of work.
Yep.
Within a year or two, they were no longer needed, because all of this stuff happened now on the computer. So remain strong, but you need to be flexible. It's okay. This is where it's going. Let me flex in that direction. And AI is one of these things. It's like you have to be, willing to take a look at this, take a deep look at it, because it can be very bad and it can be very good. And if we use it for good, it'll be a fantastic tool. If we use it for evil, well, we need to be able to to see right away when they're not using it for good.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's important to point out, as you said, that it is a tool. There's a lot of people that believe that it's becoming the mark of the beast, and we're all going to get chipped. And the AI, we've seen the movies, the iRobot with Will Smith, where they're helping, just doing mundane type stuff, and then all of a sudden the AI becomes sentient and decides that human beings are irrelevant, and so there's it's a tool, and how it's used can be good for good or evil, just like a weapon, like a gun, right? It's a tool. Guns don't kill people. People kill people with using that tool. So it's important to understand that aspect of what we're looking at going forward with AI.
I always say, Bruce, a hammer is a great tool, right? If you can build a building, but if it's in the hands of Nancy Pelosi's boyfriend, it's probably not a good thing.
Or Nancy Pelosi's husband's boyfriend.
Yeah, exactly.
That's craziness.
Well, that's the world we live in, right?
Oh, I know. So after your, what shifted you? So you're shifting to online, and as you're going through these changes, what was kind of the mindset where you're thinking? Were you because you've never done that type of thing before? Did you lack some confidence? Was there some fear involved? What were you thinking as you're making these seemingly large, different jumps from career as things evolve?
I was told in high school that the average person is going to have at least three careers in their lifetime. Well, I've far exceeded that. I'm much of an overachiever, right? So, with me, it's I was a very poor student in high school. C average. It never got really better than a C, some D's, that kind of thing. And I thought I was really dumb. And then I got involved with Tony Robbins in my early 30s, and he was teaching psychology from stage. And not only was I capturing it, I was able to turn around to the person next to me who didn't know or couldn't understand it and re-explain it to them. And I walked out of there and I go, what just happened here? I don't understand this, right? I'm a dumb kid. How could I grasp this stuff so quickly and be able to turn around and teach it right away? That didn't make any sense. So that stuck with me for a little while. And what I learned later was school was just boring. That my mind works really quickly. I want to learn more. I'm like so curious. And what kept me going and changing careers all the time is like, oh, I can do this. Well, what else could I do? How about this? Could I add this to it? And you know that. You see the evolution of the shows we've been doing over the years. If you look at the shows we were doing 5 years ago, one webcam, no background, it was just in the studio, nothing fancy, one microphone. And now it's like it looks like a full news production. It's
Right.
because I keep looking for how do I raise the bar? I've done this. What do I want to do next? And if you remember the event we did, the truth tour we did in San Diego, that was raising the bar. Never did an event that big before, but you know what? I figured it out. Took 2 weeks to fiddle with stuff, but I got it going, and we pulled off a nice event, I think.
Absolutely. No,
Yep.
that was a very memorable one. But yeah, you're exactly right. And as we move forward and things change, we have to, kind of continue to raise the bar because the
Yeah.
status quo is not does not cut it anymore. We have both been involved a lot in talking about a lot of the geopolitical, societal type stuff and exposing the corruption, the lies, and things over the past few years. That the status quo, the way our government has been working, is not working. So we're not happy with the status quo. So we want that change to happen for them. But isn't even more important that we don't accept the status quo in our own lives? Right. That's the question that kind of popped into my brain the other day was, people don't like the status quo, what's going on outside. But when it comes into your own personal space, your house, your own thinking, the status quo, they're not willing to go through the effort for change.
Well, the truth of the matter is you're either progressing or you're dying, right? There's no staying still because you try to stay still, but the whole society keeps moving, keeps moving, keeps moving. And if you say, I'm just going to stay at this level and not continue to learn, not continue to grow, passes you by, and all of a sudden you're obsolete. And you want to be always on top of that as much as you can. And just have to formulate a curiosity. And one of the biggest challenges I think in high school was we're supposed to come out of high school. This is the stated idea of high school is that you're supposed to come out with general knowledge, know how to operate in this world, right? But you should also come out with some idea of which direction you want to go to start your career.
Yep.
And that's not what happens, is it?
No.
Especially today. There was a girl the other day who graduated with honors, and she was interviewed, and she says, "I don't know how to read or write." How could you graduate high school not being able to read or write? Graduate with honors. I mean, that's where it's gotten to,
Right.
right? So when I got out of high school, it's like I didn't want to learn anything anymore. Don't teach me anything. But the truth was that wasn't who I was. I always was curious. And if you would take me into your shop and you would show me how to do t-shirts, I'd be doing t-shirts.
Right.
Because I'm curious about that. I'm like, wow, I got to try it. Let me see how this works. This is really cool. And I want to know everything about it, all the ins and outs and all the challenges. I'd want to know everything because I'm perpetually curious, kind of like a cat, I guess, in that way, always looking to learn something. So yeah, you say, I'm doing farming, I'm doing technical stuff, I'm doing copywriting, I've got best-selling author, speaker, coach, all the different pieces. It's like that's just out of curiosity,
Right.
right? I never thought going into the Tony Robbins world that I would come out a coach. That was not on my list at all. But going through it and realizing, how much of that skill set I actually possess without even knowing it. It's like sort of a natural born coach, I guess, in that way, where I can listen to the words that people aren't saying and hear what's really going on, see beyond the story, because it's
Right.
always a story. And if you look beyond the story, you could sense the pattern. And once you figure out the pattern, then you know what's really going on.
Right.
And then you can help them to move beyond it because they can't see it. They're in the story. They're mired in it. And it was that, um, a friend of mine came over, and he had just was really distraught. I had just done my first Tony Robbins event like 2 weeks earlier, and he came over and he was really distraught. It's about 11 o'clock at night, and he had just walked in the house to find his wife in their bed with another man, and he had
Yikes.
a gun in the car, and he said, "I'm going to kill both of them, and I'm going to take my own life." And my immediate gut reaction was, "Not on my watch. That ain't happening." And so I worked with him for 4 hours and was talking to him and coaching him, right, to calm him down and figure out what the next steps were, and was curious that the words that were coming through me were like the perfect words, but I also knew they weren't mine. It was almost like I was beside there and watching me speaking to him, saying things that weren't things I would ever think about. And I go, okay. I didn't tell anybody for a year after that what happened because it was like the weirdest thing. It was sort of an out of body experience, right?
Right.
So, that was my first experience with coaching, but then it was also an introduction to being connected to the higher self, the higher power, and being able to channel that information, which is what I do when I speak and what I do when I'm, oftentimes it's like there's no script for me. It's like, go on. Here's a topic, Rob. Go on stage, talk about this. Okay, great. And then it starts to come through. And then oftentimes in the audience, there'll be one or two people that'll come up to me and said, "You spoke to me." Well, you were meant to hear that message. They
Right.
gave it to me and I just delivered it because that's all I am is a vessel for that.
No,
Right.
absolutely. When we're all
So
that way.
yeah, if we allow it, because a
Right.
lot of us won't believe, right?
Yep.
So we've all got the gift, and the question is, will you use it or will you deny that it's even there?
Sure.
So it was, a very challenging experience to pull it out of me. But you know what? I'm grateful for it. And he's fine today. I mean, he's out there, he remarried, and he's got a great life. And it was all because I basically put my foot down and said, none of this is going to happen on my watch. I'm going to stop it.
Right.
You know,
And there, it just that's the lesson that I hear in there is, you never know what's really going on in somebody's life, and you took some extreme measures, and working with the guy and trying to talking him off the ledge, figuratively from making a huge, massive mistake by ending three people's lives, and
yeah,
so many people can't see the forest for the trees, and this coaching thing that you talked about, and I've experienced some of it myself in that realm. Why do you think it is that people kind of shy away from being having somebody else help them with some of the issues and situations in their life?
pride. Right? Asking for help shows weakness. No, it doesn't, but that's what people believe. The other thing is fear. People don't want to look at some of the issues. A lot of the stuff is childhood related, and some people don't want to look at it. But the truth of the matter is, it may seem hard, but when you do look at it and you understand it, you can get beyond it pretty quickly.
Right.
Typically, within one coaching session, I get people beyond some of the biggest challenges that they've got because I have them look at it. And it's like, it may not be comfortable for a moment or two, might even generate some tears, right? That kind of thing. But, that's processing and you get through it. And then all of a sudden, now you're free of it and you can move forward again.
Right. So so this is where, I mean, this seems to be kind of a pattern that's been developing in your life from early on, you wanting to overachieve, being able to see it ahead of the time, the trends that are coming, and then get, understanding some of the concepts that Tony Robbins was teaching to be able to explain it to somebody who doesn't understand. It just seems to me that you have a special connection, right? That is there anything different? I mean, can anybody do what you've done, or is it a learnable thing? Is this all available to anybody? Because a lot of people will say, "Oh, Rob's great at that, but there's no way that I can do that."
It's training. I think that's really what it was. When I went through the Tony Robbins, I went through Trainer Academy. I became a trainer with his organization. Then I became the head coach and coach's trainer in Chicago for a franchise that he had there. And I spent 2 years in Chicago, a place you're familiar with. I coached about 2,000 people face to face over the course of 2 years. So that was my training ground. I got to face every possible issue you could ever imagine. working with those people. You know, it was an hour plus coaching session. Sometimes I would do 7, 8 a day. I'd work sometimes 7 days a week and come home at night and not be able to even make dinner. Just flop on the couch and that was it. Was there until morning. Then it was time to do it again. And it was really difficult, but you have to go through that proving. It was like boot camp, if you will. And now when it comes to coaching people, boy, I've got a ton of experience.
Right.
So can it be learned? Yeah. Are people willing to do what it takes? I hope so. If you really want this, that's what's going to require.
Right.
You're not gonna get it by reading a book. Read a book about swimming and then jump in the water and see what happens. See how well that worked out for you.
Right.
Coaching's the same.
No,
You know?
and it's not just coaching. I mean, you could apply that principle to just about anything in life. People lack the confidence to be able to do or try or learn something new. And a lot of that confidence or lack of confidence is fear based, right? We talked earlier about, the fear that comes through the TV and the different stuff that we experience on a daily basis living these lives. But that lack of confidence is fear based, and it seems like that you gain confidence. Confidence comes in doing, right? You're not going to just read a book. You got to take some action with it as well. And so if you're a lot of people watching this for the first time, or kind of new to me, new to you, what advice would you give somebody to be able to, step out if maybe they have some lack of confidence? Maybe they have, a little bit of a vision, a little bit of, a gut thing that say, hey, I'm meant to do something more. How would you encourage them to explore those options?
One of the biggest fears I think people have is what will people think, right? And we're always feeling like we're being judged. Why is that? Well, because that's what our school system was based on, right? Teachers were looking over you all the time, watching your every move, and not encouraging you when you made a mistake, but punishing you when you made a mistake, right? So what did we learn? We learned we have to go through life. We can't make any mistakes. But anything you're going to try that's new, get on a bike for the first time.
Oh yeah.
Chances are you're going to fall off a few times before you get it, right?
Right.
And what happens with people is they'll try something, and if it fails, they'll try it once, they'll never go back. Or if they go back, they won't tell anybody. Rather than saying, "Hey, Bruce, I'm trying this. It didn't work out the first time. What do you suggest? You have any ideas? You see what I've done? Give me some hint. Give me, and getting the feedback and not worrying about being criticized and not worried about what people are going to think. People are going to think what they're going to think, but the truth is they're focused on their lives. And if they throw off a shy comment or something, it's just in that moment. They're not thinking about you. 10 minutes after that, you're not on their mind at all. And yet we run our whole lives worrying about what are they going to think? What are they going to say? Because that's the way we've been trained. So you've got to untrain that piece. And then you can go out and try new things. And yes, you will fail. It's part of learning, right? The more you fail, the more you learn. I mean, that's just the way it is. I think the president of IBM had once said that. It said, you want to increase your success rate, increase your failure rate.
Absolutely. Yep. And I think society as a whole, we give up too easy. We don't become, fat and sassy. And I label it, I call it the microwave society. We're looking for that instantaneous, same thing, take a pill and fix it. I don't want to wait 5 minutes for something. I need to have it now. And so that has conditioned us to be averse to a delayed gratification situation, and not willing to make mistakes. Right?
That's the whole basis of the internet. I just requested an ebook. Where is it? How come it's not here? It's been 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Instant gratification is what it's all about. And that's why we have fast food. That's why we have pills that take care of pains. And we keep, pushing big pharma for more and more of this stuff, but it's killing us.
Oh, absolutely it is. And we need to be, we need to be willing, to do that. Can you just imagine if people have an aversion to failure, or, try something once or twice and it doesn't work out, then they give up. Imagine where we'd be if Thomas Edison had taken that mindset, right? We'd be sitting around in the dark.
We'd still have candles. That's what we'd have.
Yeah. Or as a child, walk, learning to walk. You're going to, if you fell and you busted your head, face planted, then hit up, that hurt. I'm not going to do that again. We'd all be crawling around, right? So
right. Nobody be walking.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, there's so much that we can learn from each other. And I think that was a lot of the COVID situation, was to keep us separated 6 feet apart, so that we can't rely upon each other. We are this big society, but nobody wants to share anymore. Everybody's closed off. How do you think we can break through that?
Well, I encourage people to, on the shows, and when I talk about this, I always encourage people to keep sharing, keep talking, keep having the tough conversations. Don't talk about politics, don't talk about religion, nonsense. Those are the most important things that influence our lives, and we've got to be talking about these things. We've got to expose it for what it is. And one of the challenges with religion is people believe it wholeheartedly, and they think it's absolutely the truth. And I literally got kicked out of a Christian church because I asked too many questions. Why? Because I wanted to know more.
How dare you
Curious. I want to
question?
know. I want to know. I want to know. And then they
Right.
said, "Don't come back." Really?
I mean, and that seems to be the pattern in your life. Your curiosity, which just means that growth mindset, wanting to learn and be better and understand and do more, and just continually feed me. That's been the pattern through your life, and then your ability to not really care what other people think and not be fearful, because some of the shifts that you've made in your career path have been fairly extreme. From one
They
thing
have
to
been. Yeah,
another.
they have been. But it's always driven by passion. And yes, I do care what other people think, and I always have to fight that back, right? When I first started doing email marketing, it was always scary to send out email because people would get pissed off and would say nasty things. Right. So and it would really hurt when people would unsubscribe. Oh my gosh. Because I knew them all. A small list. I knew all the
Right,
people
right,
on the list. And when somebody would take me off your list, I'm like, oh, I would get hurt by it. But it's something you learn. You recognize people are where they are, and you don't know what's going on with them. You don't know their reasoning. And truthfully, it doesn't matter. If this what I'm doing isn't for you, keep scrolling. It's quite all right. There's other people who this is going to benefit.
sure,
And to get to that, it took a lot of learning. It took a lot of growth on my part because I was one of those people who did very shy growing up. I mean, if you knew me in high school, I was more like paint in high school. I blended in with the walls. Nobody ever knew I was there, which served me in my first years as a photographer, doing weddings and stuff. It was great because I could get the shots nobody else could get because nobody saw me,
right,
right? But and I had to learn at some point to step up and get up in front of the microphone and get up on stage and do all that. And it wasn't without its moments of fear and panic and all the rest of that. But you do it enough, and all of a sudden you realize, the spotlight really isn't on you as the speaker, right? Spotlight feels like it's on me right now, but it really isn't. It's really on the people watching this and the people who are in the audience. And when you recognize that you're here just to deliver the message, it's not about you anymore. Now it's about them. And then it becomes, now I've got to do this. Now it's
right,
not just not a want. It's like I have to do this because it's for them. And I'm helping all these people. And I know it because I get the emails, I get the hugs, I get the accolades, right? And you helped me so much, you changed my life. All the time you're getting that.
right.
Well, that's why I'm here,
Absolutely.
right?
And I remember you're telling me there's a story connected with, kind of that transformation, that breakthrough from being the shy person behind the camera to being kind of forced into, speaking in front of a bunch of people that really was not your comfort zone. So share that story.
Yeah, the idea was when I was starting to do marketing consulting and I was starting to do coaching, and I realized that if I really wanted to grow, the next step was to be able to speak in front of people, and I couldn't. I was just like so shy. If there were two people in the room, I'd be quiet, right? And I'd just be listening. I wouldn't be participating because I wouldn't want to speak in front of people. So I needed to figure that out. So I was at a Tony Robbins event back in Denver, Colorado, and his wife at the time, Becky, was meeting with the staff, and we all had an opportunity to meet with her. So I was just standing there, waiting for my turn, and in my head, I'm like formulating what I'm going to say to her because I'm real nervous, right? What I'm going to say is coming up with all the words and exactly. It's like I'm writing copy, right? That kind of thing. And she turns to me and she goes, "Hi." And in that moment, everything that I was going to say, I forgot everything. Wiped it out, completely gone. So all I did is reached out, gave her a hug. That's all I could think of in the moment. And then I calmed down a little bit, and then we started talking. And I said, "Yeah, really, the challenge for me is to get over the fear of speaking, public speaking." And I know that's really important because that's the next step. I want to be a good coach. I want to be a speaker. I need to be able to influence people.
Sure.
I've got to get past this craziness, this fear. So she goes, "Oh, that's a good thing. I'm glad you're here, blah, 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 whatever." And we go our own way. And that was that. A couple hours later, someone grabs me and says, "Tony needs you in the green room." I'm like, "Tony doesn't need me in the green room. What's this about?" So I go there and he's backstage. The music's playing. The dancers are up on stage. Everything's going. He's on his rebounder, getting ready to go up on stage. He turns to go on stage and he grabs me. He's got a big hand. It's like the claw, right? And I knew the steps to the stage were there, and he grabs me, pulls me up on the steps. Somebody handed me a microphone, and the fear that went through me at that point was like a lightning bolt. It was insane. It was like, I'm not going on this stage, no way. And he not letting go, his big hand, right?
Right.
And so I don't really know or remember much about what, it wasn't long. It was only a minute or two, but it was, I don't even remember the words. I don't remember what we talked. I don't remember anything. All I remember is 1,900 people in that room standing up and applauding. And there was a wave of love that I felt that I've never felt before. And it was really, really strong. So I got off that stage and I thought, I could do this. I just had the thought, I could do this. I just did it. I can do this again. So I went back home. I was living on Long Island at the time, and I bought an ad in the Long Island Business Journal, and I promoted 2 seminars. I'd never spoken in front of a crowd before. 2 3-hour seminars. Why did I do two? Because I knew if I did one and I failed, I'd never do it again. But if I had
So you
two,
put yourself
I had
on
to
the
go
hook,
back, right?
to
Yeah, I put
force you
myself
to
on the
do
hook.
too. Yeah, yeah.
And so I had friends who decided to come and hear, and then I had a bunch of new people that signed up and paid, I think it was $29 to attend the seminar. So they did. They sent in their checks because I didn't have nothing online really set up for that at that time, and they would send in their check, and we all met at the hotel, and it's like 5 minutes before I'm supposed to start speaking, 3 hours, and I've got like 20 people in the room, and my friend's like, "How you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm not even nervous." And he's like, "Really?" It's like, "No, not at all. I don't know what's going. This is the weirdest thing." And so I went, I did my 3 hours. Some of them signed up for the second course because this one was good enough, enough for them to come back again.
Sure.
And so I did both of those. Then I took a public speaking class and I thought, well, this was probably a good thing, right? Take a public speaking class, learn. First night of the public speaking class, she says, "Okay, I want you to introduce yourself." So I'll then go, she goes around the room. She comes to me. I stand up. I introduce myself, and she comes up, stands next to me. She goes, "I think you're in the wrong class." She says, "At the end of the class, this is where you're supposed to get to." She says, "You're welcome to stay and all, but you're really not going to learn anything here."
That's funny. So I mean,
It is fun.
the 2 3 hour seminar, you were the solo guy. You were just entered to have a bunch of speakers, or it was the Rob Imbriale show, right?
Yep. Yep. I
Interesting.
recorded the audio on a VHS tape. I wonder if I could pull the audio off that. I'd be really curious to hear
Oh
that
yeah.
those seminars again. Yeah.
So what I mean, what was the topic? Was just more of the the self help type stuff or
No, it
mind
was marketing back then. My
marketing?
passion was in marketing. So it was how to write a headline that sells, and the other one was how to write a classified ad. Not I'm selling my car classified ad, but in the old days, we used to run classified ads to sell things. So you'd give away ebooks or give away whatever you were doing to build your list. You'd use classified ads. Classified ads, if you remember, Popular Mechanics, Popular Science, National Enquirer, all these places we place ads and have millions of people view them, and they would work. They would produce. They would produce an avalanche of leads. It was great.
Yeah. So there's
Teach people how to do that.
absolutely. I mean, good grief. I mean, so you go from being the shy guy, blending in behind the camera, essentially invisible, to be having Tony Robbins put you on that thing, and the thing that you remember the most is the love that you felt from the people,
Yeah.
and that's what spurred you on to go ahead and do more. And I find it quite curious too that you took a public speaking course after you had done the seminars already.
Yeah, well, I wanted to, because the feedback I was getting back then, I don't mean to brag here, but it's going to sound like I'm bragging. I always give out a survey after I speak at those kind of events. And what'd you think? What'd you think? 1 to 10, 10, outstanding, 10, outstanding, 10, outstanding. And I'm looking at this, I'm going, okay,
Were
I'm
they in
not
the
getting
same
any
thing I was?
back here. Yeah, exactly. It's like, how come I'm not getting any constructive feedback here? So I figured maybe I need to take a course and somebody who knows about this, maybe they can help me be a little bit better. But apparently that was the truth. That was how they were experiencing it. But I realized after, being on there that, that like I said before, the spotlight's not on you. It feels like it's on you, but it's not. And your whole goal is you're in service to those people in that room. You're in service to those people at home watching on their computer, their phone, whatever. You're in service. And if you have that attitude, then the fear goes away.
No, yep,
You're just a
100%.
service provider.
Absolutely. No, I can completely resonate with that idea because it's similar to me. There was a huge shift in my confidence in how I was doing things when I wasn't doing it for me, when I was decided that I was going to serve others rather than myself and share, be an open book, being able to share all the stuff that I screwed up and failed at and you made mistakes, and that, but implementing piece by piece, little by little, growing and growing and growing. It's a never-ending process. We're all still a work in progress. And there's, I say all the time, today is the first day of the rest of your life. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. What happened to you, what you did. It does. None of that matters in the past, and tomorrow doesn't matter. The future. Don't worry about what's going to happen now. All we have is right now. We just need to be the best we can be. You screwed up yesterday, but you get to brand new start today. Guess what? The sun comes up again. You get to try it again. So we can continue to push, and the theme seems, as we're talking today, seems to be, getting over fear, right? Having courageous and having some passion to be willing to take some action.
The other piece too, because I've changed careers so many times, is like everything you do never goes to waste, right? So I still use the skills I learned as a commercial photographer to this day. And really, what it is a lot of people skills, right? So when you put a person on set and you put the lights on them, you put the camera in front of them, it's an extremely uncomfortable position for people who don't do that professionally, right? So what I had to learn how to communicate with them, to calm them down, to reassure them, right? And so I use those skills to this day. Those skills never went away. And that's what really led me into coaching, was because I was, always understanding how to speak with people, and that led me in that direction. And those skills I still use. I still use the photography skills, obviously, because I've got the studio and the cameras and all the rest of this stuff. But yeah, it doesn't go away. And that's the thing. Is like people say, well, you change direction. That means you got to throw out everything. No, 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 no. You take the good stuff with you, right?
Absolutely.
Because all those lessons, they're life lessons. It doesn't matter what the thing is you're doing. You're learning and you're growing as a person, and you can apply those skills in other industries. Jay Abraham is a great example, one of my other mentors for many, many years. He is a great example of that. He would look at every other industry, see what they were doing, and he would apply it to different industries, because it's marketing is marketing, right? So here are the skills. There's a real estate guy doing this, but oh, there's a steel manufacturing company doing this. You know what? They're doing something really good that the real estate guy could probably use. And he would cross pollinate like that. Super, super successful, billionaire, level of success
Right.
by doing that kind of thing.
So I mean, this just shows you everything's connected.
Yeah.
And when we talk about unleashing excellence in everybody's life, the principles are timeless, and is how we can implement those principles and adapt them to our own personal situation to be able to take best advantage. Because I for years and years and years studied all kinds of stuff, and I heard little bits and pieces, but it wasn't until my spiritual awakening that all the big picture came together, and it was like the light bulb went on. It was a spotlight. I was like, holy cow, this all makes sense now. I could see how all these different pieces of the puzzle come together. And sometimes when you're in the throw, or you're going through that daily life situation, you don't see those things unless you take that step back and kind of pull back, see the 30,000-40,000 foot view, which it seems that you have that gifting to be able to see the bigger picture.
Yeah, when something bad happens, you always take a step back and you say, okay, what can I learn from this? And people don't do that, but that's a good question to ask. What can I learn from this, right? Because
Absolutely.
if you don't learn from it, you're bound to repeat it. So what can I learn from this? What led up to it? How did I get here? What led me to this situation? And if you learn the lesson, then you're very likely you're not going to go back there again. You're going to get new lessons, but not that one again. Otherwise, you're not learning. You're just going to keep getting the same thing over and over again, right?
Yep.
So yeah, learning to ask questions is a real key to being successful. And I'm always reanalyzing things. Maybe I analyze a little bit too much sometimes, but I'm always looking at that and say, okay, this relationship didn't work out. Why didn't it work out? What can I learn from it? Or this business didn't work out. This idea that I had, or this project that I put together didn't work the way I expected to. What didn't I know that I need to know going forward if I'm going to do something like this again? Then that's how you grow. I mean, there's
Right.
no other way, right? Yeah.
No, absolutely. So we get, it's a continual thing. And if, like you had mentioned earlier, you're either progressing or you're dying. Our mutual friend Kirk Ashley in his book, you're either evolving or you're dissolving, is the how he puts it, right?
Yep.
Life isn't a merry-go-round just to give people a visual. It's not a merry. You can't step off the merry-go-round and then get back on the same place you were. It's more like those linear or moving sidewalks in the airport. If you step off, you got to run that much harder to catch up to the people that stayed on the whole thing. So we have to, I believe, as to be the best that we can be. Be able to be willing, to screw up, be willing to face some of the things that we're scared of, so that we can have a better life. That's all I want for myself, my kids, grandkids, the people that watch this stuff online. Is I want everybody to be better and do better and have more, because it's all there for us, right? We're not these nice things or nice experiences aren't on the planet just so they can be teasing us, say, ha, this is something you can never have. No, we can all have that, and we got to make some adjustments, some tweaks. Sometimes it's a full wholesale rebuild, and you've been through that rebuilding process multiple times. Sounds like.
Yeah, I have. And the truth of the matter is on my 60th birthday last year, I put out a video and I said, here are the lessons I learned, throughout the years. And the biggest one is you're not going to get there alone. And this is what people, when they look at what they're doing, they always feel like they've got to go it alone. And the truth is you don't get there. Tony didn't get to where he got to alone. He has people around him. He actually has people working for him that have been there since the 80s when he started. Same people,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's got a team of people that support him. And when he may go through a staff here and there, well, they don't want to support anymore. They want to do something else. That's fine. He'll replace them. But he always has a team behind him, right? And the truth of the matter is, none of us can get there alone. So, what's your local network? You're pretty much going to have the level of success of the five people you hang out with the most, right? And if that's not enough for you, you want to go higher, you've got to start hanging out with people who are actually more successful than you. And you got to find those networks where they are. We're lucky today. We have the internet. We can do that. It's a lot easier. But in person, nothing beats in person. I love in-person events for that reason. You get
Right.
to meet people you'd never meet otherwise.
No, you're 100% correct, because that's why one of my favorite things, the beginning of the Prince song, the Let's Go Crazy song, dearly beloved, we're gathered here together today to get through this thing called life, right? Iron sharpens iron. You're not going to do it alone. And if the people around you, if you have some type of vision or purpose, something burning inside you want to get done, and those people around you aren't supporting, maybe you need to change those people. That's another hard thing. And I'm sure there's probably been people in your life that you've had to move on from because you grew
Oh
beyond,
yeah.
or they were not
Oh yeah.
supportive, but you didn't let them steal your dream. You went ahead and found somebody that would support you.
Yeah, the first Tony Robbins event I went through, I grew like 10 years in 4 days, and I came back, and all my friends couldn't relate to me anymore. And they all left. And it's like I alienated everybody. And I thought, well, this is kind of interesting. But it wasn't too terrible because now I had a bunch of new friends from those events who were at that level. And they eventually came back around. Some of them actually went through Tony Robbins trainings later on because they saw the impact it had, and they saw how much I had shifted and changed. And they, after the initial shock, I guess, they finally came around and said, all right, maybe we should go to one of these events too. And I dragged some of my friends to those events, and they were like, this is the greatest thing ever. Thank you so much. And they grew too. That's just one of the things. Like, you've got to be willing don't hang on to, the rock if it's causing you to drown. Let go of it, and there'll be something else for you. It's okay.
No, absolutely. And another little analogy that kind of really is the visual in my mind, because our mind works in pictures, almost all the time. So the visual is a bunch of crabs in a pot or a bucket, and as they're trying to climb up, the other ones are grabbing and they're trying to climb up, and they're pulling these people down. And there's many people in our lives that have good intentions. Their intentions are not to keep us from achieving our dreams and goals and whatever it is we want to accomplish in our life, but they're because of maybe they're what's the word I'm looking for? They're projecting onto you because of their lack of initiative or ambition, or they don't want to it makes them feel lesser because you're wanting to achieve more. Does that make sense?
Well, the other piece there, it's called the crab theory. The other thing there is they don't want to see you get hurt, right? So they're trying to quote unquote protect you by not letting you step up, and those could be your mother, father, brother, sister, uncle. That could be all people that love you the most. Which can be the biggest obstacles to your success.
Yep.
And that's one of the things you've got to be able to break through and say, I appreciate what you're doing. I've got to do this for me, right? And even if I fail, I know you'll be there for me, but I've got to do this, even though it may cost me, it may hurt, it may whatever. I've got to do this, and you've got to be able to step up and do that.
Absolutely,
and claim that.
And since we're on that quick topic, within the next week or so, I'm going to be putting out a video, and in the title of the video, I've already got the title. It's exposing the dream stealers, and it's it just come to my mind as we were talking about those people. But I'm going to do a thing exposing the dream stealers in the next week or so is one of my next videos I'm going to be putting out.
Going to look forward to that one.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
what do you have going on nowadays? I mean, where can people? I have it scrolling on the bottom of the screen. Is the best way to get to what you're doing and everything through your website, renegademedia.tv.
renegademedia.tv, and there'll be a new website up in a couple of days, roberti.live. I have robertimbriale.com, but the challenge with that is no one can spell my last name.
Yeah.
So,
Some people can hardly say it. I mean, good grief.
Yeah, well, that's another issue. So it'll be at roberti.live, and what I'll be doing is offering coaching, both one-on-one and group coaching as well. It'll be a very small group of just 12 people, and people can get involved there and get a little bit of guidance to get past the things that are stopping them from realizing what they really want to create in their lives. And it's one of these things, like, you think you can get there yourself, but the truth of the matter, you can't, because you're behind the obstacle and you can't see it.
Yep.
So a coach is really good because they can see it without getting involved emotionally, right? It's the emotions that cause the fog. And if you could see the situation, bird's eye view, without the emotional, without the drama, then you could help them find the path forward. A coach is very simple. We're just a person with a flashlight that shows you where the path is. We don't walk it for you. You walk it, but we show you where it is. And then you can walk with confidence.
No, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of people, kind of diss or, say, I don't need somebody, I can figure it out. I quite honestly have had those mindsets and attitudes myself, but over this last several years, I've come to realize, no, I can't figure it out. I need other people. And Robert has been a huge friend. I got a handful of people, 4 or 5 people that I can trust and rely upon to either put say, hey, maybe you should try doing this, or kick in the butt, some motivation, a little bit of tweaking, because we all can have these course corrections. We're going to go on this path, we have this thing, but sometimes we get a little bit distracted and get off course a little bit. It's course correct, you move forward, course correct, move forward, course correct, and that's just the process of getting through life.
Yeah, exactly. You can figure it out on your own, though. But do you have that many years?
No, yeah, it'll take way longer. And
Right.
I know there's
the shortcut is having somebody else help you see through it.
absolutely, and there's people that are way smarter. There's people further down the path that I'm on, and I look to them for guidance as well. And then that's what I'm doing with this channel. Is I know there's people that are further behind the path, behind me. and I'm reaching back. So it's all a Jacob's ladder type of situation where there's people pulling me up, I'm pulling people back, and we're all working together to be able to be, the best we can be and unleash the excellence that's inside each and every one of us. Because nobody is a mistake. There's no, you're here for a purpose, for a reason. There is excellence that's deep inside every single person that's watching, and we just need to unleash it. It might be, take a little bit longer for some people than others. It depends, because everybody's in a different position, and that's why sometimes it's so, when you talk about the coaching, it's a one-on-one situation, and you can kind of, hone in. It's more of a sniper situation, right? But in this larger collective thing that we do online with the videos and speaking to multiple people, it's got to be a shotgun approach. I can't, I don't know the situation that may be going on in your life. I have a general idea. Most people are very similar in a lot of the stuff that we experience. There's not a lot of difference in the overall stuff, but that's some of the challenge that I find, because I want to help so many people, but without having that one-on-one interaction, I feel limited. So that's why we just kind of, throw all the spaghetti on the wall and, give you all the ideas and principles and different, strategies and things you can do. But it's ultimately up to you whether or not you implement them.
That's exactly where the coaches fit in, right? So if you think about, any speaker like Tony Robbins or someone like that, they're going to give you kind of the broad brush stroke overview of what the issues are. But if you want to get specific, then you need to sit with a coach one-on-one. And that's the thing that bridges that gap.
Sure, absolutely. So renegademedia.tv, you also have the Rumble channel, Renegade Media, and then your YouTube, is that Renegade Media as well, or is your YouTube is a little different?
No, YouTube will also be official Renegade Media TV.
But all the links are on the renegademedia.tv site. So you can just go to that one place. It's been scrolling on the bottom of the screen. As we bring this plane in for a landing, that seems that the things that we've been talking about, if you were to give people one or two, little action items as a closing words, something they can do. I always like to give people action related stuff. I just don't want to talk, let's do something that kind of can make things better. So what would be your closing action item for what we've been talking about today?
Well, rewrite the meaning to the word failure, right? Because a lot of people look at failure because we've been conditioned through school that that's a bad thing, and we get punished when we fail, right? And the truth of the matter is, it's not a failure, it's a learning experience. So I rewrite it that way, and it's okay, this didn't work out the way I wanted. What are the lessons I can learn so that I can go back and do it again, do it better next time, right? And if you keep that in mind, if you keep doing that, then you'll keep progressing. And if you use the word failure and understand it the way it was taught to you, that failure is a bad thing, that's it. You try it once and it's not going to work. Well, you didn't ride your bike the first time. You couldn't swim the first time someone threw you in the pool, right? You couldn't walk the first time someone put you on your 2 feet. It takes time, and you're going to fail, and that is how you get to success. You fail your way to success, literally.
Absolutely. Yep. No, I tell people I never fail. I either win or I figure out some way that doesn't work. So it's just a mindset shift. To not failure seems, the word itself just seems so final and just ending, and the failure, this is bad. And that's why people don't step out and do things to begin with, or afraid of the failure. So it's not going to hurt. I mean, I wouldn't suggest walking a tight wire across the Grand Canyon without a net, unless you're the Belindas or something like that. That's an extreme example, but for the most part, 9.9 times out of 10, the things that you fear, and the bad things that might happen, never happen, and nobody's going to get hurt. You learn, get up, do it, dust yourself off, do it again. Today's the first day of the rest of your life.
And if it does hurt, it just makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
Not the end of the world. Life goes on.
Absolutely. So I appreciate you, Robert. Thank you for taking the time today. Make sure you like, share. Sharing is more important. If you know somebody, if you're watching this and you see something Robert said that, or I said that makes sense to you and you know somebody else, share it out. So, give us a like, share, subscribe. New stuff's coming out all the time. And we will see you guys on the other side. And like I say, remember, today's the first day of the rest of your life. Have a great one.
Thank you,
Poppy
Bruce.
Show. Yep. Thank you, Robert. You're amazing.